Today we're doing a fun bicep curl, and it's going to work our biceps in a slightly different way, and I'd like to just explain that really quick. So in a normal bicep curl, we're standing, right? And as we lift the weight, our bicep muscle works the hardest when our forearm is parallel to the ground. That's when gravity has the most force going on, right? So that's when it's going to work the hardest, and that is when our arm is bent to about 90 degrees. Now, we're going to work this muscle in a slightly different position because we are going to have our body inclined back a bit, kind of like so. And what that means is that when our forearm is parallel with the ground, making the bicep work the hardest, right? Now my arm here is actually less than 90 degrees. Does that make sense? It's not bent as much. That's going to force this muscle to work harder in a different position. So it's just a nice different way to work the muscle, increase our strength in various ways. So that's what's nice about this as well. Now the other thing is, since we're in this angled position, our arm will be starting kind of with this muscle stretched a bit more to begin with versus in standing. So we're going to get a really nice big range of motion, and we're also going to work the bicep that crosses our shoulder joint. Not many people know that, but our bicep not only bends the elbow, but there's one of the heads of the two heads that actually attaches at the shoulder joint, and that muscle actually helps to lift our arm from the shoulder. So we're going to do that exercise here, and then we're also going to raise our arms up a little bit. So just kind of basically doing all the different actions that our biceps do, all in one exercise. In addition, we are also going to get to work our glute. Cut. You didn't see that. The other thing is we'll be working some other auxiliary muscles just by holding this body position. This is going to be a little more challenging to hold than just standing up, right? So we're going to have our core muscles working a little bit, even our quads a little bit. So just kind of isometrically, which is also awesome. So all you need is a ball, 2 dumbbells for doing the thing, and we're going to look to do 2 sets of 8 to 10 reps. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and get into position for the ball incline bicep curl. You're going to start already holding the dumbbells in your hand. You'll just be standing wherever you're standing, and then you will, with those dumbbells in your hand, sit down on the ball to start. From there, wearing shoes or your feet, you gotta wear your bare feet or shoes because socks is gonna be too slippery. You're gonna walk yourself out until your butt's not on the ball anymore and your back is on the ball still. And kind of the way to figure out what's the best position here for your body, one, you want it to not be like so hard that, like for your quads, that like they're super burning and shaking and you can't even pay attention to the bicep curl. So depending on like where your feet are in relation, like how bent your knees are, for instance, that will affect how much your quads are working, and also how much of your body is off the ball, how much you lift your hips or not. So just kind of play with it. The idea is that, while other muscles will be working to some degree to hold this position, they shouldn't be working so hard that you can't focus on the bicep curl. Does that make sense? So kind of just base it on that. So for me, something like this is pretty good. Now the other factor to consider is making sure that the dumbbells don't hit the ground when you're in the starting position. So if I kind of let my hips drop down lower like this, well, now I'm not really able to get to the bottom position without just hitting the floor, right? So that's not ideal either. And if you're taller or have longer arms or whatnot, or your ball is smaller or bigger, you'll just have to adjust based on that. So if you're too low here, you can either kind of step back a little, right? So that now my low back is more on the ball. See, that automatically brought me up quite a bit, right? Or you can also press your hips up a little bit. That's going to require a little more muscle activity, but those are just a couple options to get in a good starting position. Now for holding the dumbbell, normally we hold our dumbbell with our hand in the middle, right, of the holding part, whatever that's called. Today we're going to do it a little different. We're actually going to slide our hand so that the thumb is touching the top head of the dumbbell when it's held vertically. So the top of the head there, it's touching there. So it's not in the middle, but it's here, okay? That's the reason we're doing that, is because that's going to make the bicep muscle work harder as we lift and then turn the palm up. Because this side of the dumbbell is gonna feel heavier to the bicep here to do that turning. So that's gonna make that muscle work harder. So we're holding our dumbbells closer to the head, like so. And then your arms are just gonna be starting here, kind of in a straight position at your sides. And you'll notice that in this position, my arm is actually a bit behind my torso. So as we talked about in the intro, in a standing bicep curl, my upper arm here would actually be in line with my torso if I was just standing up. But in this case, it's actually starting back a little bit, right? So this is our starting position here.
Hi ladies, I'm Razel. If you're a woman in your over 40s like myself and you like my style of teaching, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. In addition, over on my website, I have extra stuff like ways to make the movement easier, how to make it harder, common mistakes to avoid with each movement and why. If all that sounds good to you, and again, you like my style of teaching, come on over to my website at inspirefulwomen.com.
Last thing to note before we go ahead and do the movement is you want to make sure that like your upper back area and all that is still kind of like pulled back a bit, nice and broad chest. We don't want to kind of be like all rounded and scrunched into the chest like this. So just kind of pay attention to that, pulling those shoulder blades in and down the back still. That will just help keep a nice, good, whatever, body position. All right, to do the movement, what we're going to do is bend. So the first part of this movement is simply about bending the elbows, okay? So everything else stays totally still. We're gonna bend the elbows with our palms, facing each other. So the dumbbell's in a vertical position to start. So we bend the elbows. And then as we come up towards our hips and past our hips, we're going to turn the palms to face up so that now the dumbbells are horizontal, okay? So vertical, here. You can really turn as soon as you want. The thing is you might have to spread your arms out a little further to clear your hips, right? So once we turn the dumbbell to horizontal, like for me, if I keep my arms close to my body, I run into my hips. And we don't want to get rid of those because our hips are beautiful about us. So what you can do is kind of do the turn after you pass your hips. Or like I said, you could technically move your lower arm, like your forearm area. Keep your upper arm here close to your torso, but you could move your forearm out a little bit and then turn a little sooner so that you're further from your hips. That's the other option, okay? So those are two options there. So you bend the elbows, then turn the palms up as you continue bending. You're gonna squeeze here at the top when you've bent the elbows as much as you can. And then we're not quite done. So now we've done the elbow bending part. Now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna take from the shoulder joint here and we're gonna lift our elbows up a little bit just until our upper arm here, the bottom of it is parallel to the ground, okay? So it was here, right? I bent my elbow. And now this part of my arm is gonna come up until right here is parallel with the ground. That is going to work the portion of the bicep that crosses the shoulder joint, okay? So the elbow is still bent. We're here. Palms are now facing us. Dumbbells are still horizontal. And then we're just gonna slowly reverse the movement. So first, the elbows come back down while the arm stays bent till they're back on the ball. Now we unbend the elbows with that horizontal dumbbell. And then as we get closer to our hips, we go ahead and turn the palms so that the dumbbells are vertical again, back to the start position. Okay, so let me show it a few reps to you now in a row so you can kind of see it at a normal pace. Here we go. that's really all there is to that. I have a couple of ways to make this movement easier if you feel like it's a little too challenging, and that's over on my website in the easier video on inspirefulwomen.com. But yeah, other than that, just to get out of the position, say you're holding the dumbbells, two things you can do is you can just kind of bend your hips more and set the dumbbells on the ground, and then just sit your bottom down on the ground and be done with the ball. Or you could go ahead and bend the elbows, put the dumbbells back on your legs there, and then walk your feet back in. Have the dumbbells on your thighs, not here on your chest, because as you round up, to sit back up, we don't want to have all that weight on our spine as we round our spine up, okay? So just keep them here on your thighs, walk yourself back up, and you're good to go.
Thanks for being with me today, ladies. Once again, I'm Rayzell, and if you're a woman in your over 40s like myself and you'd like to do full-length follow-along workouts with me as well, in beautiful outdoor nature settings, I also create those. Those are over on my website, so why don't you come on over there? That's at inspirefulwomen.com.